The spooky season is starting to come to a close, and I thought it would be fun to do a short top 5, kind of a digestible list of 5 awesome and fun superhero or comic book based movies that you can watch for the Halloween season, whether it's this year in 2025 when I'm recording this or in the future. So I do want to clarify, these are not in order of my favorites. I tried to split these up because technically I could have gone all in on something like Batman, done only Batman films with how dark they are. I thought that would not be fun though. So I wanted to mix it up a little bit, and I did want to say this is one of the last days, by the way, that you can get 20% off your first order, or actually I think any order, over on cosmobunny.shop, where we have one-of-a-kind unique resin pieces up now made from recycled paper from damaged books, stuff like that. So I'm going to talk more about that at the end, but use code MOON if you're interested. And I do have a question of the day for you before we hop into it, which is, what is your favorite superhero movie that is seasonal in any way? Like, for example, people who watch Spider-Man 1 around Thanksgiving, people who like to watch Batman Returns around, Christmas. Let me know. Let me know what your favorite is and why.
Number 5.
Now, the first one I wanted to start with is Batman The Long Halloween. Now, this one would be very, very silly to skip. It literally has Halloween in the title. It deals with characters like Calendar Man, and of course, as well, it has Batman trying to track down and figure out who the holiday killer actually is. And I don't want to spoil too much about this story. This is in the newer DC Tomorrowverse, which is pretty much not a thing anymore now after the Crisis on Infinite Earths, at least in terms of storytelling. I think by the end of that, they've restored everything pretty much. But in general, they're not telling stories in this universe anymore. But the general order kind of went DCAU, then the DCAMU was a thing, then the Tomorrowverse with Superman, Man of Tomorrow, and on from there. Now, Batman The Long Halloween is in that series, and I'm probably going to be showing some gameplay here as well, because I can only show so much of these movies without getting copyright claimed, and I want to keep it fair use. But here's one thing I will say to kind of close this one out. It also does deal with the romance between Selena Kyle's Catwoman and Bruce Wayne's Batman. It has a lot of interesting mystery in it. It is very much in line with the Halloween season, and I do think just in general it has these dark kind of gothic vibes that are really fun. Overall, I think this one does deserve a spot on the list though. I get that the universe it's a part of is considered the weakest by a lot of people out of the 3 main DC comic book cartoon universes, but it's a fun movie.
Number 4. It's the 4th one.
4.
The next one is Hellboy, one that I do not have a lot of footage on, so I need to keep it brief. But Hellboy is a very unique film. It is a Guillermo del Toro film, which just in general already will make it unique in terms of vibes. The actual performances delivered in this movie are very fun, and something I like about Hellboy is, not to say he's unpopular, but it's not like one of the big 2. Like, it's not one of the characters that you're always seeing from Marvel or from DC Comics. Hellboy is very unique, and the source material is also unique, which brings with it very fun vibes that I think you're not going to get out of some of these other movies. Also, Guillermo del Toro is very, very interested in the horror side of things, and Hellboy fits that quite perfectly. Essentially, with this secret society working for the government, dealing with the paranormal and the supernatural that threatens the world. In many ways, this movie actually reminds me of a film like Ghost Rider if it was actually trying to take itself a little more seriously. And because of that, I think it fits on the list not just as a good Halloween movie, but a good movie that unfortunately gets overlooked sometimes because it's not from Marvel or DC.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Justice League Dark is a film in the DCAMU, the universe that followed the DCAU. And personally, while I do think the DCAU was the best universe that they put together for a shared continuity of DC cartoons, Justice League Dark is a very good movie. This is a movie that I even own the steelbook of. I really do like it. Now, does this movie in some ways suffer from, what the DCAMU suffered from in general, which was a focus on Batman above all else? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, Batman didn't necessarily need to be here, but I do think that his presence in Justice League Dark does elevate the film. It essentially has a supernatural threat attacking the world that the Justice League cannot deal with on their own. So Batman goes on a sort of quest to actually enlist the help of the paranormal beings that are on the side of good in the DC universe, including characters like John Constantine, Zatanna, who is one of my favorite comic book women of all time, loves Zatanna to death. And of course, as well, they visit the Swamp Thing. Deadman is in this movie. You have Etrigan. There is really a focus on the paranormal side of the DC universe, which I did like seeing a lot. I think that it's a side of superhero movies that we actually don't see as much of. Yes, we saw the Ghost Rider films, and like I said, they don't take themselves too seriously. You did end up getting Doctor Strange films, which I think did a good job with this in Marvel. But in general, we don't see a ton of the supernatural or paranormal side of these universes outside of the comic books, because the comic books are obviously the lowest budget way they can explore them. And some of those themes are not always easy to sell to people. It's easier to sell simplicity when it comes to superhero films. And so to actually see this get filmed, to see it actually animated, put on screen, and deal with that supernatural side in a story that you can watch as a standalone or as part of an overall universe was really fun. And what I will say is, even if you're not interested in the DC AMU, if you watch this movie, I would recommend watching the follow-up film Constantine City of Demons. It is very dark, very good. I almost put it on this list, but I wanted Justice League Dark over it. And maybe I'll do another list like this next year, because there's quite a few movies that I think could also be watched on Halloween.
Number two, the numero dos.
All right, some of you are going to raise your eyebrows at me, but I promise I have an explanation, and that is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, starring Tobey Maguire. Now, here's part of my explanation. I love this movie. I grew up watching this movie. I do have a bias for enjoying this movie. I understand that, but I think this movie also does fit because Spider-Man films don't often tackle the dark. You know, they don't often tackle not dark themes in general. I mean, there's dark themes with family being murdered, revenge versus justice and things like that, but Spider-Man 3 is actually about an alien being coming down from the stars and attaching itself to Peter Parker and starting to affect his personality entirely. It leads to a vengeance plot. There is body horror in this film involving the Sandman, especially a character, Flint Marko, who did not ask for the circumstances he finds himself in really at all. And there is also a lot going on with that symbiote, with the Venom symbiote in general. I think that this is just a film that fits the Halloween season, even though it doesn't take place during Halloween. It is a darker Spider-Man film that explores self-identity, impulse control, addiction. Now, could it have done all of these things a little bit better? Yes. I don't think anyone is like, you know, dying on the hill that Spider-Man 3 was the perfect Spider-Man film. It's probably the weakest in terms of writing out of the original trilogy, even though I truly love the film. But I do think it fits this Halloween season, especially because of the fact that it's literally about an alien monster coming down from outer space and ruining the life of a beloved superhero in many ways. It fits, it works, and I personally would recommend it just for the vibes alone, especially if you don't really like horror. It's one of those things you can watch and still fit the season without having to scare your pants off.
Number one!
Splat.
The last one is a film that I personally think is criminally overlooked, and the series it's from is criminally overlooked, and that is The Batman versus Dracula. Now, The Batman, not the movie, okay, the Robert Pattinson movie is a movie I also love, all right? I'm literally the guy who reviewed the Batman calzone over here, but this was a television series in the early 2000s following the end, kind of them doing a lot of stuff with the DCAU Batman and moving on to different incarnations of Batman in the cartoons. And The Batman focused on the early days, kind of of Batman meeting his rogues gallery all the way up to starting to form the Bat family and meet the Justice League, all kinds of other stuff. I always thought that The Batman could have basically launched its own DCAU type universe, but unfortunately it was just the seasons of that show and then this film. Now this film is Batman versus Dracula, where Batman actually fights Dracula and he fights vampires. Vampires start to appear in Gotham City. Bruce essentially tries to go around figuring out what is happening, doing detective work. Why are these monsters popping up? What is this paranormal attack on the city, and how can he deal with it? And it also pits him against these supernatural beings and Dracula himself, who is more than a match for Batman. And to this point in that cartoon and in that canon, Batman was shown not to not struggle, but to be able to essentially use martial arts and his brain to overpower most of his villains. He's a very good fighter in the Batman, but when it comes to Dracula, he is just faster and way stronger than Bruce Wayne can be as a normal man. So it does lead to sort of a detective type story of how Batman can possibly stop this threat that is preying on Gotham in the middle of the night. I think it's very cool. Obviously, Dracula himself is a staple of the horror genre. Yes, maybe not as much now in 2025. They don't do as much with Dracula anymore, but everybody knows who Dracula is, the most famous vampire of all time. So to see the Dark Knight himself go up against this supernatural and paranormal threat is really fun. They do a great job with this film. I wish more people knew about its existence, which is why I wanted to put it at the top spot, so that hopefully if you watch this video, maybe you'll seek out the Batman cartoon and maybe you'll give Batman versus Dracula a chance as well. But even if you don't want to watch the cartoon, which I do think you're missing out on, it's very good, this is a movie that you can watch on its own as a Batman fan and just enjoy it. It doesn't reach too far beyond the scope of its own continuity, but it does still fit into the canon of the television series, and I think that's really a great way to do it. That's how some of the best Batman cartoon films have done it, like Mask of the Phantasm or Sub-Zero, where you can still watch them even if you're not watching the entire cartoon around it, and I think that that's really a good way to tackle this kind of formula. So these are 5 Halloween superhero movies that I think you should check out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I love to hear your answer to the question of the day, and I would love to hear your recommendations as well. I do want to say a quick thank you to our members, so thank you very much for those of you who are supporting that. I believe at the lower tier, there are something like 70 exclusive videos up now, and at the higher tier, we're pretty much approaching 90. So I appreciate those of you who are supporting in that way. Also, we do have that sale going on cosmobunny.shop, code MOON 20% off. I believe it ends after Halloween Day, so basically on November 1st, I believe it's ending. So I would recommend checking that out. Coasters, keychains, trays, and more. All kinds of art made from one-of-a-kind materials. Essentially what we do is we take comic books, manga, magazines, and other books that have been damaged, and we actually save some of that paper. We use it in a transformative art by using some of it in a bigger art piece to create something new for your home, and then we recycle the rest. So I hope you'll check that out. Have a fantastic day. As always, everyone, stay shway.